Hi, I'm David Hamburger, here for Acoustic Guitar, and in this lesson we're going to look at getting started with bar chords, so what they are and how they work and how to apply them to playing a song. So the thing about a bar chord is, if you have an open chord, like an E chord or an A chord, it's called an open chord because it has open strings in it. And you can't move those strings around, right? Those open strings need to be part of the chord. So this E chord is always going to be an E chord, and this A chord is always going to be an A chord. But imagine if you had a capo, right? That's the easiest way to move an open chord around, right? So if you had the capo here at the 3rd fret, you could then make that E chord, and the capo would take care of the strings, the rest of the strings, the so-called open strings, right? Although now they're not open anymore. And that's the thing about a bar chord that's really amazing, is that this doesn't have any open strings. So if we make this chord and we get a chord that works, now it's movable, right? You can't take this shape and move it around. Well, you can, and it sounds kind of cool, but it's not what we really want. But if you have this bar chord shape with this, your finger acting as the capo, once you get it to work here, you can get it to work here, or here, or here, or here, or here. So you get all these different things you can do with this one shape. So this chord is an E chord because it's got this E in the bass. That's the root of the chord. So the root is on the 6th string. If we move up here to the 3rd fret and we recreate that shape by using our finger as the capo or the bar, and the rest of the notes are in the same shape or proportions as they were before, now we can look at this and go, well, what's this string doing now? Now this is a G. So we've taken this shape and all the relationships between the strings, and we've moved it up 3 frets. The bottom note is a G, so this is now a G chord. It's a G bar chord. And wherever we move that, if we go up here, this note is a B flat, so now we have a B flat chord. If we go here, this note is A, so now this is an A chord. So that's the start of what makes bar chords so useful, is that they're movable. And once you learn the one shape, you can put it wherever you want and just use this note as your guide for what the root is. But the next thing that's really cool about it is, if you're on an E chord and you take this finger off, now you've got an E minor chord. But again, you can't move this around. But that means that if we use this shape as the basis for this chord, that means we should be able to do the same thing here and remove this note and give us, now if the root is G here, because this was G major, if we take this finger off, we now get G minor. And that's movable. So here's B flat minor, and here's A minor, and here's F minor. And finally, if we take off the ring finger and leave this D, the 4th string, open on an E chord, we get E7. So that means when we're up here, we can take this G chord and we can take the pinky off, which is what's covering the 4th string. And now we've got this note on the 4th string, which is F, which is the flat 7 of a G chord. So now we have a G7 chord. So here's E and E minor, E and E7, and here's G and G minor, and G and G7. So we've got 3 different chords that we can get with this one basic shape: G, G minor, and G7. And that means wherever we go, here's B flat, here's B flat 7, here's B flat minor. So that gives us all these possibilities. And finally, we could start with this shape, with A, and we could move that up. Now in this case, the root of the chord is on the 5th string. And when we go up, we're going to actually want to change the fingering a little bit. So let's say we go here and we imagine the capo is at the 5th fret, sorry, the 3rd fret, but that we're only going down as far as the 5th string. So here's index finger, it's pressing down across the top 5 strings. And then we're going to use the ring finger to hold down, to make another like smaller bar across the 5th fret at the 4th, 3rd, and 2nd string. we're not even going to really worry about the high string. We just want the middle 4 strings. And so the way you deal with the low string is to let the tip of your index finger touch the low string so that when you strum, you don't really hear what's happening down here. You don't actually bar it. You let the tip of your finger touch the 6th string. So that gives us, if this was A and the root was here on the 5th string, if we go up to here where we're holding down a C note, this is now a C major chord. And just like we did with E, we can say, oh, well, this is A, and this is A minor. When we take this note and we drop it 1 fret to the 1st fret on the 2nd string. So if we take that shape and put a bar underneath it, imagining this is the capo, now we've got a C minor chord. And in this case, we do want a bar cleanly enough that we can get that high string to ring out so that we can get 5 notes. And then one more time going back down here, to go from an A to an A7, we would take out the index finger on the 3rd string and leave it open. And that would be A7. So if we take that shape and we move it up and we bar at the 3rd fret, we get A7. So from here, we have A, A minor, and A7, which means up here we have C, C minor, and C7. And then that shape, or rather all 3 of those shapes, can be moved around, and you just want to use where the index finger is on the 5th fret on the 5th string as your guide. So if this note, if we're playing a D note here, there's D7, there's D minor, there's D major, which means between those shapes and all the ones with the 6th string root, all the ones we built over here and moved around, we can now get just about any root that we want. E, F, G, A, B flat, C, D, D, C, B, C, D, E, F, G. You can get some of these chords in 2 different places. Like here's G major, and here's G major, and here's C7, and here's C7. And the only real rule about when you should use a 6th string root and when you should use a 5th string root is just whatever's going to make it sound good or make it easier to get to the next chord. Like if you're playing a G here, G7, you want to get to C7, you could jump up to here, or if you don't want to jump around, you can just move across to the 5th string root version and play C7 here. Sometimes you want to have that sound of things moving around like that, and sometimes you don't. So once you have these 6 different chords, the major, 7th, and minor chord here, and the major, minor, and 7th chord here, once you have those 6 shapes, you can use them however you want to. Now, what bar chords are notorious for is being hard to play. So don't be freaked out if it doesn't sound super clean at first or clean at all. It may take some time to get the muscles developed so that you can make these sound really clean and really strong. And that's okay. Just do a little bit of it a day or whenever you can practice them, and don't spend too much time like making that clamping motion, because you can really start to stress out this part of your hand. So just go slowly, do a little bit at a time, maybe just try to get the bottom few notes to sound clean, and then slowly worry about, getting that super clean sound, and make sure that you're like not too close to the fret and not too far back here, but that you're kind of in that sweet spot about 3/4 of the way up from the lower fret to the fret you're actually using. So with that in mind, let's take a look at how to play After You've Gone. Now we're going to use bar chords to play the song After You've Gone. After You've Gone is over 100 years old. It's a standard, one of the early standards that a lot of swing and jazz musicians have played for a long time. And it's got a lot of those chords that will make your head explode if you just open them up in a songbook and think that, well, how am I going to do this? Like, I don't know how to play an E flat or an A flat chord, right? Because there's no open E flat or A flat chord to be had. So that's where bar chords come in. So let me play through the tune one time using just these 6 shapes we've been working on, and then I'll go back and explain a little bit about the kind of rhythmic pattern that I'm doing with the strum and with the left hand. Here we go. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, and... Okay, so just a couple of thoughts about how to actually play the chords in the context of a song. This is an old swing tune, and so it's got this sort of chugging 4 to the bar feeling, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, where the weight is kind of on the backbeat on 2 and 4. So if you're playing bar chords, you can take advantage of one of the other great things about bar chords, which is when you relax your grip, you don't hear any strings. So you get this kind of percussive sound. So if you play straight downstrokes with the pick on all 4 beats, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, but you only press down on 1 and 3, you get this groove where you hear this kind of snap on the 2 and 4 on the backbeat. So you don't have to play the chords that way, but if you're playing a tune in this style, with this kind of background to what the tune is and where it comes from and how people play it, this is one way you can do it so that it starts to get some of that swing feel. And it's yet another advantage of working with bar chords in the first place, is that you can get that kind of choked sound on the offbeats, which gives it that particular kind of groove. Okay, so this has been an introduction to bar chords. With these 6 voicings, you can now find all those chords all over the neck that you couldn't before, like A flat 7 or C sharp minor. Just remember to take your time and work on this slowly. You don't want to spend like 3 hours the first day trying to hold down these shapes, or you'll wake up the next day and your hand won't even want to move. It's kind of like going out and running for 26 miles the very first time you ever lace on your shoes, right? Your body's going to be mad at you later. So just take your time. It can take a while to get these to sound clean. And a lot of the times you don't necessarily even want to play a whole song with bar chords. You just want to use them to grab the occasional chord that doesn't sit easily in open position. So just work your way through these slowly. Hopefully understanding what they are and how they work will help you start to include them in your own playing in a way that makes sense to you. So that's it for this lesson. I hope you have fun working on these chords and learning this song. To learn more about me and my other teaching projects, you can go to fretboardconfidential.com. For acoustic guitar, I'm David Hamburger.